So what is up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about trail cameras, kind of where to set them up, what's some, kind of tricks and tips. We talk about that a lot, about trail cameras. Where do we want to put them up? What are we trying to accomplish? What are trail cameras? That's kind of what we're talking about today.
And feel free to, those of you who are listening, if you have additional tips or tricks, if you have additional questions that we don't answer in the podcast, hit us up on any of our social media platforms. You can send direct messages to us. You can contact us through Messenger on Facebook, or go ahead and send us an email to podcast@forgottenoutdoors.com. We also have a website, forgottenoutdoors.com. You can go to that website. There's a little message form at the bottom of the homepage. Fill it out, send it to us. We want to hear from you. We want to try to answer your questions to keep these podcasts relevant to you and to what our audience wants to know.
Which this last week, guys, has been awesome. So we launched our company. We got the website up and running. We have our store up and running. If you haven't checked that out, go check out the store. Go on our website, forgottenoutdoors.com. Click on store. We have some merchandise like the hat I'm wearing, like the shirt Thomas is wearing. There's our shameless plug.
Yes.
No, but it's been awesome. We've launched some episodes, and we've actually gotten some awesome feedback from you guys.
Yeah, you guys responded quickly. We got a few emails already, and we've had a few people subscribing to like our email list and things like that. So it's been really exciting. We are excited to connect with you guys.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Thank you for all those that have reached out and just said, hey, listen to it, liked it. Thanks for you guys that have been like, hey, here's some thoughts. Here's some concerns I have. We love that stuff.
Yes.
If you haven't figured it out by now, we don't know what we're doing. We are
definitely learning. We are definitely learning as we go.
Making it up as we go.
Okay, so let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. So I think kind of to start off with talking about trail cameras is kind of what they are. So trail cameras, they're a little compact unit camera that has a motion sensor, and you throw it up in the backwoods or you throw it up on a water source or whatever it is, and when something walks by or moves it, triggers that sensor, snaps a picture. That's basically what they are, and most people use them for hunting. I do know some people, if you aren't in the hunting scene, I know people that have just thrown them up just to kind of figure out where wildlife is. They like to, look at wildlife or capture cool pictures of elk, deer, all that kind of good stuff. And so very, very useful technology in the backwoods. Thomas is you're getting into the game.
Yeah, so
trail cameras.
I would say, I've known what trail cameras are for a long, long time. But it wasn't until probably last year that I really started using trail cameras and benefiting from trail cameras when I was doing my spring bear hunt with you and with Logan. That was the first time that I even cared about trail cameras because for us, we had set up a bait site with bear. We've kind of talked about this a little bit. I won't go into too much detail. But we did set up a couple trail cameras around our bait site so we could kind of pick up the patterns of when those bears came in. Yeah. And for me, that was new, but it was extremely beneficial because it helped me to know when to go and to sit the tree stand and watch the bait.
Yeah. And so like we've talked about it before, but most of the hunting that you've done, Thomas, has been up in like northern Idaho, which is a long way away from home for us. And you really only get up there, a week out of the year, the week that you're hunting it, really?
Yeah.
And so like that's not a very practical or realistic thing to do is set those up unless you're going to let them sit there all year, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And that's kind of what me and Ben are doing this year. We're trying to find some new spots that are closer to home, so that one, we can not go spend a week away from our families, but also just being able to make it practical for us to go check trail cameras, be able to hunt more often, and so we're kind of trying to explore the area that we are in. Find some spots that are closer, and the trail cameras are helping with that a lot.
Yeah, and trail cameras, they really do help with that. I don't have a ton of time type of thing because when I was first getting into hunting, I didn't really use a ton of trail cameras. I would just go up and kind of sit on some hillsides, try to go almost every morning or almost every evening and just kind of see where animals were moving that way, but that takes up a lot of time.
And I'm sure your wife didn't love that.
No, she didn't. We were recently married, and so she was like, I'm okay with it. Yeah, go do your thing. But I have twins that are supposed to be born like next week and a 2-year-old daughter, so it's not in the cards for me right now.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, they save a ton of time because you can go and put them up there and not worry about them, and it will show you if there's animals in that area for the most part. I mean, they might not cross that exact path that you're going down, and you might have to adjust them or move them around a little bit, but it gives you a really good indication of what's kind of moving in that area without you sitting up there in that area yourself.
Right. So I guess a question I have. So you mentioned that you would go up in the mornings or in the evenings to kind of sit ridges before you had trail cameras.
Right.
How often would you say you check trail cameras? And I'm talking like the ones that don't send pictures to your phone.
Gotcha.
We're going to get into that a little bit later, like the different types of cameras you can get. But like, if you don't have one sending you live updates to your phone, how often are you checking that?
About as often as Courtney, my wife, would let me. No, I would try to. It depends on the time of the year. So right now it is like June, right?
Yes.
Yeah. End of June.
End of June.
Yeah. So end of June, in the middle of the summer, I would probably check them every 2 weeks. I would probably go up every 2 weeks if it's in deeper country because they're harder to get to. And if in 2 weeks I haven't had a lot of movement, I'll move the camera.
You're pulling it.
Yeah. If I haven't had a lot of animals that have been crossing in those 2 weeks, it doesn't mean I'm going to move to a completely different area, but I might go throw it on a different trail camera, or not trail camera, on a different game trail or something like that. If it's in a more accessible area, it'll be more frequent. So like whitetail hunting isn't that far away from where we live. It's a 15-minute drive and like a 2-minute hike. So yeah, I would check those, every week, if not twice a week.
Right.
But like where we were hunting or setting up some cameras the other day,
Yeah.
it's like a 6-hour ordeal with
Yes.
drive time and hike round trip. So I mean, we would probably check those every 2 weeks, I would guess.
So that kind of, sorry, this is kind of going off our original plan, but that brings up an interesting topic, I think, because right now, obviously, we're setting up trail cameras, trying to monitor animals to kind of prepare ourselves for September.
Right.
So we've got some months, we've got months
Yeah.
ahead of us. We're not concerned about getting up there and actually hunting the animals for a long while. So if we're getting closer to September, are you pulling the cameras or are you just leaving them there but maybe checking them more often?
I'd leave them there and check them more often, really. I mean, I do know some people that when they kind of get to those hunting months, they'll pull their trail cameras just because there's so much more traffic up in the mountains.
They don't want them
to get stolen, or they don't want people walking by and being like, "Ooh, I'm gonna hunt this area now because there's trail cameras," and that
They don't want to give away
obviously
their
means,
spot.
yeah. So I do know people that do that. Like where we're going, I think it's high enough. I don't think we'll run into that problem very much, but I don't know. We haven't hunted it before, so we'll see. So I do know that. I personally like to check it because here's the thing for me. So like what we're doing with our trail cameras right now, we're gearing up for September, which is archery elk hunting. That's during the rut. So these bulls, they're trying to breed. They're going to start moving around, and so I like to leave them up there because it's like, all right, we've seen these regular bull patterns. They're walking around normally, and all of a sudden, overnight, we have some crazy movement going on. They're in the middle of the day. We're seeing bulls that we haven't seen before. Those are kind of indicators that it's like, all right, something's kicking off. We need to be up there on the mountain hunting it right now. Same with whitetail hunting. It's like, okay, we see the same buck in the middle of the night. We see the same couple does in the middle of the night moving, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, this is a brand new buck, and it's in the middle of the day, and he's trailing some does. We need to be in some tree stands because the rut's on, and this is the time that we're going to get something killed.
Yeah, so I think this is a really good point of point of transition into the different technology. So, if we're talking about traditional trail cameras that most people are probably familiar with, you set it up on a tree, kind of like what we talked about, maybe every week, every other week. You're going up there, you're checking it, you're pulling an SD card out of it, and you're plugging it into your laptop or into your phone, and you're scrolling through hundreds, maybe thousands of pictures, trying to see which ones actually have animals on them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the more traditional sense of trail cams. But recently, I would say within the last few years, they're coming out with trail cameras that will hook to a cell tower, send you a picture every time it gets movement on the camera.
Yeah.
And I mean, with what Ben's talking about, how like you're looking for pattern changes, especially with elk and with the whitetail, the rut's on, you're starting to see something different. That is where I think that these cell phone cameras are game changer, because you're not gonna go up and check a week later and be like, oh my gosh, I missed it. It was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
You know, all these elk came through 3 days ago and now they're gone. But instead, you'll get a hit from your cell phone camera, and it's gonna hit, and then you can pack up, go. You'll be there in 2 hours, 3 hours, and you're ready to hunt these things. So, I guess Ben, maybe just explain your experience, just where I'm more new to it. I feel like if you'll explain more the technology side of trail cameras, the benefit of traditional versus kind of what we got into this last week setting them up.
Yeah. So yeah, the technology has been awesome. Like the changes in technology have been incredible with the trail cameras. So when I kind of started into the game with trail cameras, they were basic trail cameras, spending about $150 probably, you know, $100 on a camera. It was the traditional sense, and you need to go up with some AA batteries, switch out your batteries. You need to go up with a new SD card, switch them out.
And like 16 AA batteries.
Yeah.
Like a lot of AA batteries.
It's like, it is a panel of AA batteries, and you're switching them out, you know, every month or whatever, you know, depending on the camera. But we go up there, and they took some pretty good pictures, and then, you know, a year or two later, the cameras were getting just better quality pictures, you know. Instead of the 12 megapixels, they're 18 megapixels, and they're super clear, and they're awesome. And then they started getting into the game of, like Thomas was saying, these pictures that these cameras that will send to your phone. I personally didn't get one until just barely, but Logan, guy we hunt with, we've mentioned before, outfished me, idiot. Anyway. Yeah, he got one, and we tried it for bear hunting 1 year, and this one, it was expensive. It was one of the earlier ones, and it was like $700 expensive, camera wise, and so a little harder to get into. But we threw it up on our bear bait, and man, it was a game changer.
Yeah,
because before, I mean, our bear bait's high, and we go up and we'd be like, oh dang it, like nothing's hit the bait in a week. You know, we didn't need to check it, or we'd wait another week and the bait would be cleaned up. We'd go through our camera and be like, they cleaned it up the first night. We should have had more bait in there. Another plus for that, having one that would send it to your phone and be like, all right, we got bears up there right now and we're hiking in. We need to be super sneaky and try to shoot one of these bears out of the bait.
Yeah, and I think that's even a kind of a safety precaution for, especially bear hunting. I mean, not so much with deer and elk because they're, you know, a little bit more skittish. You can kind of play your cards on that one. But with bear, I mean, if you know that the bear's there right now and you're hiking into it, you might, you know, consider being a little bit noisier so that you give the bear a chance to run off.
Now you chamber that round. You're gonna put that thing on the ground.
or you chamber around. That's true. But that's the thing is, you know, it is kind of an alert system. And you and Logan have talked about times where you guys have been working close to a bear bait. And Logan got pictures from that camera on his phone, and then you guys have kind of talked about just going up right then.
Yeah. We weren't working like our job, but we were up, honestly, just scouting out new places. And yeah, while we were up in that area, we got a ping on his phone, and it was like, oh crap, there's a bear in there right now. So he snuck up and he shot a bear out of that bait, just from getting a picture off of his camera. So yeah, it's crazy technology, and you know, I have heard some people bring up the point where it's like, I don't like to use them. You know, I feel like it's kind of an unfair advantage, throwing up an eye per se that shows you what's going on a tree and you're not actually there. I feel like it's kind of cheating in a way, and maybe it is. I know a lot of people have different opinions about, you know, what's ethical and what's not. I know that back in the day, you know, that older generation, they didn't have that technology, but at the same time, they had a lot more game than we have right now. You know, a lot of the older generation that I've talked to, they always talk about the decline in numbers that we have nowadays. And so it's a lot more difficult in a sense to get on those animals. And so, You know, you using these trail cameras, this technology that's, you know, at our disposal kind of evens those odds a little bit more and helps us be able to harvest an animal. And when we're hunting, you know, it's not just about, yeah, we're killing an animal, we're throwing some big antlers up on the wall. And we've talked about this, I think, in the past, and we'll talk about it more because I feel like it's so important. Hunting is not just, I'm going to prove how much of a man I am today and go shoot the biggest animal out there. I think if that's the reason that you're hunting, you're wrong.
Yeah, you need to get out of the game
you're
now.
wrong. Like, that is not the point. It's not to prove to your friends or your family how tough you are, how big of a man you are. That's not what it's about. You know, I'm not saying that big antlers don't excite me, and I know they excite Thomas too when we see a big bull.
And I'm not saying
or a
that's
buck.
not the goal, you know, like
Yeah,
you
it
want to
can be
shoot a
part of
mature
it.
animal.
Yes, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
One, because, you know, they're cool and they got big antlers, and another one is because they've had time to breed and they've lived a long life. But yeah, for me, you know, it's about putting food on the table for your family. It's
Yeah.
about getting up into the outdoors and for yourself or to build those relationships with people that you're close to. And I just think that deep down inside, it's in our DNA, you know, like if you go back a couple hundred years, this was it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to live, you were hunting, you were gathering, you were doing something to take food. You're going outside. Well, you lived outside to begin with,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
But that was it. And you know, maybe it's not in some of our DNA now, but for me, and I think for Thomas, and I think for a lot of people that, you know, hunt or wanting to get into it, that there's something about it that it drives you into the outdoors and to do this. So
Yeah, and this is, I mean, this might seem kind of like a tangent that we've gone on at this point, but this is something that me and Ben talk about all of the time. Almost every time we come together to do these podcasts, to meet about our business, it seems like we are always talking about this, this concept of ethical hunting, doing it for a purpose other than just putting a trophy on the wall. Trophies on the wall are awesome, and like Ben said, they excite me. I love to see them, but end of the day, if that's the reason you went out, then that, I mean, I feel like that might be a little backwards.
I agree.
You know, we're here to be ethical. We're here to, you know, practice good behavior with these animals, and exercise good dominion with them. And part of that is using them for the purpose of putting food on the table.
yeah.
And getting back onto our topic of trail cams, I feel like the trail cams. Oh, go ahead.
I might stop you. Yeah, just talking about like whenever we're getting together, we're talking about this topic. So last week, Thomas and I, we put up some trail cameras, and we're going to get into that more up in the mountains. And it was like an hour and a half drive. And that we should have had some microphones and the camera rolling because this was a topic straight for like an hour and a half and digging into it. And we had some differing opinions on some minor points, and we talked back and forth. But about this, what is ethical hunting, and why do we hunt, and what is a wrong reason to hunt, and what's the right reasons to hunt? And I think it's a lot case to case basis, but it's so important. And if you're a listener and you're considering getting into this sport, I think it's something to consider because taking a life should never be taken lightly, in my opinion.
Yeah, even if it's an animal.
It doesn't matter if it's a human or an animal. It shouldn't be taken lightly. Well, you shouldn't probably take a human's life. But
At all.
At all. There, we can draw the line there, right? No, but like on an animal, it shouldn't be taken lightly. So it needs to be taken into consideration of why you're doing it. You know, and I think that it can be different reasons for everybody, but I think that as a hunter, you need to know those reasons.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to stand behind those reasons and feel good about it because there is a sense of remorse every time you take a life. Mm-hmm. And I think that the day that you stop feeling that little bit of pain, that little bit of regret almost when you've pulled the trigger and you've put down a magnificent animal, I think something might be messed up in you. I think something might be wrong, and you should probably stop. I'm serious. Like, I think that if you can see this majestic animal that you've been tracking for weeks, you know, and that you've been taking pictures of for the whole year or your whole life, and you've never done this, and you put the crosshairs on this big bull elk that is just a magnificent, beautiful animal, and you take its life, you stop its heart, and you don't feel anything, you're just like, oh, sweet, yeah, some antlers for the wall. I think something's wrong with you. I don't think that you should be hunting. I think that you should find a safer hobby for your mental state. Not to offend anybody here, but this is just some true talk here, and we've gotten way off of trail cameras.
Yes, we have.
On a tangent, so let's get back into it before we say something we regret.
No, but I think it's just, I guess that's kind of where I was going. Is I was going to say the purpose behind why you're using trail cameras, I think will probably determine if it's cheating or not cheating. Yeah. If you're using it for food, then I don't see a problem with that. If you're using it to, see where they're coming out of private land onto public land, then that's,
Yeah.
But, that's to each their own. Ultimately, we're not here to tell you how to hunt or what kind of a person you are.
Right.
But that's, obviously everyone has differing opinions, and we have differing opinions.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's something that we'll continue to get into as we continue to do these episodes, because it is something that we're passionate about, something that gets us excited. And that's why obviously we've taken this tangent, is because it's something that we feel passionate about. And ultimately I think down the road, you'll continue to hear us talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But one thing that I wanted to ask about trail cameras, since like on this topic of cheating or not cheating or whatever, is there any kind of regulation from like Idaho Fish and Game or any kind of fishing game that you know of? Because I don't know of any, but I haven't done a ton of research on it.
No, not that I know of. The only thing I can think of is private land. Like if you're putting cameras on somebody else's property without permission, obviously, no, you shouldn't be there in the first place.
Right.
And here's another tangent. Don't trespass. Don't trespass. Gosh, that pisses me off. Like when you're out there's enough public land. Let's just put it that way. That we shouldn't be trespassing on other people's property. So many people out there are more than willing to let you drive through their property or even hunt some of their property. If you approach them, you ask them, you go through the right channels.
Yeah.
It doesn't turn into a thing, but don't just assume that you can go on somebody else's property and there's not going to be any consequences.
For sure.
It's cheap. It's not ethical in my opinion.
And I think, I guess just something regulation that just came to my head to think about and just to throw out there, because I feel like it relates to trail cams, is drones. So with drones, if you're flying a drone, whether you're hunting or not, if you fly a drone, is it that day you can't hunt till the next day? So it's similar to like flying a plane.
Yep.
So if you're familiar with like people who hunt in Alaska, a lot of times they're flying in. The rule with that is that you're flying in, then once that plane lands, you've got 24 hours. You can't hunt. And the same thing with the drone. So if you're up in the air, you're flying over trees, taking pictures, maybe even you see animals, maybe you don't see animals. Regardless, the rule is 24 hours.
Yeah.
So just something to consider if you're into outdoor photography or you're just into monitoring these animals. That's great. That's fine. But if you want to pick up a rifle and go hunt them, then you just make sure you are aware of those kind of regulations as it relates to taking pictures and photographs of these animals.
Yeah, and that's in the state of Idaho. Thomas mentioned that's true to Alaska too, and some other states, I'm sure. Just if you're getting into this, always keep up on your regulations.
For sure.
Because that applies to us too. I'm sure that we're going to put out some hunting videos this fall for you. We do have a drone. We're going to take some awesome shots, but we're going to have to do that some other time, not when we're trying to hunt it, because in Idaho, if you're flying drones, you can't hunt. So just a good reminder, always be aware of your regulations, and they often change.
Yes.
So
get the up-to-date books.
Yeah. Not just the right years, but they're pulling out like first and second editions and stuff. So yeah. Look in the books. They're in all your hunting stores pretty much. And you can always call them, get online, look up that.
For sure. So I guess just one last topic that we wanted to cover tonight as it relates to trail cams is thief prevention is how we've titled it. Essentially, kind of like what Ben talked about earlier on, once hunting season gets to its peak, then there's going to be a lot of traffic, which means people are going to be walking past your cameras most likely. They may even approach your camera. And that's happened. I mean, we've caught people on our cameras. We've caught pictures of them. Sometimes it's just
looking right up their nostrils as they're trying to get into our camera.
and sometimes it's harmless. You know, they just are hiking and they might even notice the camera and then mind their own business. But there are times where people will try to take your camera. So there is some equipment built onto the cameras to prevent this. Ben knows a little bit more about that, so tell us about that.
Yeah. So some of the cameras, depending, have codes, passwords that you can't get into them without that. So if somebody grabs it, it's still going to get stolen, but you can't do much about it. Other ones, like the little door that opens up that you can get your SD cards in. I think most cameras, they have a little eyelet. You can throw a little padlock or something like that through. Kind of easy to break off. They can still take the whole camera because, most cameras, they come with like a strap that you just strap it around a tree. They do make lock boxes. This is really, honestly, the way that if you are worried about your cameras, you should secure them. So you have lock boxes that you can put big old lags through the back of them. You put your camera in there, and then there's a little case that comes over top. You padlock it. Solid metal box. And if you're getting into bear hunting and you're running a bait sight, I would recommend this too, because not only do humans mess with cameras, but animals will too. Bears, they'll get curious. They'll see that infrared light go off, and they'll go and mess with it. They'll tear it down. Funny story, actually, with that. So I had two cameras in this one hole. It was a little bit more of like a accessed road. It was a little lower country, and there's a little mud wallow for elk. It's like a just muddy area. And I had this herd of elk that would come down in here into this wallow, every couple days, and they'd hang out for a couple hours. So I go back to check my cameras, and both of them are gone. And I'm like, son of a gun. Like, somebody stole my freaking cameras. Somebody came down in here and stole my cameras. They were gone. And I was so ticked off. And so I don't think I found them that day. I think I came back to put up another camera, and I look down in this wallow, and I see like a strap hanging out of the mud. And I'm like, what the heck? So I hike over into this mud, and I pull up this strap, and there's my camera on the end of it. And so I start looking around in the mud, and I found the other one. So I'm like, what the heck? Like, did somebody throw my cameras into the mud? Like, what is going on? So I opened them up, pulled out the SD cards, and I got to looking. And I'm like looking at this elk herd that's in there. I'm like, oh, this is sick. And I see this cow elk walk over to the one of them. And I'm looking up her nose, and she's like licking the camera. I have like a picture of like her big old tongue, like half covering the lens. And then all of a sudden it's like a picture like looking at the underside of this cow. And then the next one's like dark black in the mud. And it was like a similar thing to the other one. So these elk got curious, hanging around there, started like licking the cameras, chewing on the straps, ended up tearing them off the tree, both cameras, and putting them in the mud wall. So, those lock boxes are awesome for protecting against people and also protecting against animals because, they're an investment.
Yeah,
they are. Like the cheaper cameras, you can get some cheap cameras for like $30, $40.
Right.
And they're going to be cheap. You can get an okay camera, for $70 to $100 is, you can get into a decent camera. $150 is a nice camera. And then you get into the ones that send you pictures, and those jump up in price.
This year we got, Ben kind of mentioned that he got some new ones that send to your phone this year. So this is just a little plug. We got the Spy Point. Yeah. I don't remember the model number.
This is not sponsored, by the way.
No, it's not sponsored. But Spy Point camera has definitely come out and kind of disrupted the market of cell phone cameras because, like Ben mentioned earlier, Logan bought one that was like $600-$700. That was one of the earlier models. It did take better pictures.
Yeah, it definitely did.
But like higher quality pictures. And these Spy Point cameras, while their picture quality is not great, I mean, $199, $200.
Yeah.
And you're into one of these that will send the pictures to your phone. It's real time, live updates, and I mean, it's worth every penny. Like we've set them up a week ago almost, and we've been seeing.
Saw bobcat.
Yeah, we've been seeing pictures
coyotes,
almost every day. Every
deer.
day we're getting them.
We had a bull elk go past.
A pretty sweet bull.
Moose.
So,
So.
it's cool because otherwise you're playing the guessing game. And
Yeah, it would be like, has an animal even walked by him? Are they even
Right.
working?
Yep.
Hopefully they're on,
Yeah. So I mean, they're killer camera, and
Yeah.
for $200, I mean, you just can't beat that. So
Yeah, so kind of on the technology side with these new spy points that we got, which is so cool. So the traditional ones, like you have that like a million different AA batteries that you put in them. A lot of the ones that send them to your phone, they have like rechargeable AA batteries, and they have this long cord and then this big old solar panel that you throw up on a tree. And that's like the one that our friend Logan had, and that got torn down a bunch of times by elk. That solar panel did, because it attracts them for some reason. But these spy points, you have the camera, and then just built on top, you have this little tiny solar panel. And then you have like a little lithium battery pack that's not AA's. And so it just charges. We haven't had to switch it out or anything. Our cameras have kept full charges since we put them up there a week ago. So awesome technology there that we don't even have to. Not only do we not have to go and check SD cards, but we don't have to worry about the battery life.
Yep.
It recharges itself up there on the mountain, which is awesome.
and because it's hooked up or linked to the phone, it tells you your battery life. So if you're not getting a ton of sunlight, then eventually, that battery's going to drain, but you'll know when it's drained. So then you can just go up and take it down and charge it up and do whatever you need to do. Yeah. But I think that pretty much covers it. That kind of covers what we wanted to talk about today. Yeah. I just wanted to put in one more plug for contacting us. You can hit us up at podcast@forgottenoutdoors.com. That's an email. Send it to us. Send us whatever questions, comments, feedback you have. Go to our website, forgottenoutdoors.com. Like I said, down at the bottom of the homepage, there is a message section where you can fill out the form, and it will send it to our email as well. And so we will get those, and we're going to do our best to respond to those as quickly as we can. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want, find us and let us know what you think, because we're very open to feedback, especially now. We're trying to learn, we're trying to grow. We're trying to kind of build this business from the ground. So we've got a lot to learn. And so we feel like your guys' feedback is much appreciated, and it helps us to better, provide you the content that you want to see or listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all we're trying to do is help build confidence in the outdoors.
That's what we're all about.
Whether that's hunting, fishing, backpacking, hiking, camping, whatever it is, if we can help you guys to build that confidence, to take those steps into the outdoors, or if you're already doing it, to build more confidence and get into new arenas of the outdoors. That's what we're trying to do. And it helps us immensely when you guys tell us how we can help you. So we're not just kind of grasping at straws saying, I think the people want to know about this. I think that they want to know about this. When you guys come and tell us, and we're having multiple people say, hey, you really should talk about this. Hey, I really have questions about this. It helps us to help you guys better. So please hit us up. Podcast@forgottenoutdoors.com. All of our social media stuff that Thomas just mentioned. Please, please, please reach out to us and let us know how we can help you guys.
And with that, thank you for listening to Forgotten Outdoors Podcast. We look forward to visiting with you again.